Tonight, BPL is on the financial cliff and power company officials are looking to cut costs. They say a new solar plant can help them save millions. Plus, off the power grid, more than 1,000 BPL customers remain disconnected. And another prisoner is found dead in his cell at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. What investigators are saying about the incident. And then at 7:30, a BPL employee who was attacked while on the job is speaking out. Find out what he says led to the violent incident. Our News at 7 starts now. Welcome to Our News at 7. I'm Candino Knowles. Thanks for joining us. The power company chief is tonight touting a 60-megawatt solar field on New Providence by 2023 as a major cost saver for Bahamas Power and Light. This as Works Minister Alfred Sears sounding the alarm in Parliament yesterday about the power company's dire financial straits. The cost-saving news comes as government announced a November price hike, which Sears defended in Parliament yesterday, saying the cost being passed on to consumers keeps the power company from falling off a financial cliff. As for the solar field, BPL Chief Executive Officer Siobhan Cambridge says it will save the company some $23 million in annual fuel costs.
The solar grid that is being discussed or planned at the moment is about 60 megawatts to be introduced into New Providence. Our preliminary calculations are showing us that is going to save us about $23 million per year in fuel costs.
Prime Minister Philip Davis announced the solar field back in June, saying it will help reduce the country's reliance on fossil fuels. And when asked if the timeline of 2023 is achievable, Cambridge said this.
We are on an aggressive schedule. We're trying to get that in place. Realistically, whether it be in place in 12 months, I won't stand here and say no, but it is doable. But it's going to require a lot of things falling in place at the right time. And that's the best answer I can give you.
Meanwhile, over 1,000 BPL customers have had their power disconnected. And while he could not give the exact amount owed, the BPL chief did say the number of disconnected consumers continues to fluctuate.
We had about 1,400 consumers who were disconnected at that time, but consumers could be disconnected for any number of reasons. And that was the rolling answer that came out of the computer. That may have included 100 who were just disconnected for immediate delinquency and reattached that same day. But it's around 1,400 or so.
Now, the incremental rate increase soon to come at BPL has many consumers searching for ways to reduce their monthly bills. At 7:30, our Marlena Leonard reports about easy swaps and big picture changes you can make to save money on power, like switching to solar. Are without power tonight, while others are bracing for an increase in the already high cost. It actually has members of the opposition once again criticizing government's efforts in combating inflation. Jamila Missick has that.
The opposition is still completely unsatisfied by the government's response to the inflation crisis. That according to Shadow Minister of Finance, Kwesi Thompson.
Governments all across the world are moving and are making impactful changes to their domestic economy to fight inflation. We understand that inflation is not the cause of the government, but the government must do what it can to mitigate the effects of inflation.
He says he believes the administration has made it more difficult for Bahamians now that they have implemented a rate increase for BPL.
One of the things that we were calling for was for small business assistance during this inflation crisis. The government has actually decreased the amount of funding that small businesses have available to it. This month is Youth Month. One of the things that is going to be touted is about how do we celebrate our young people. One of the ways that we could celebrate our young people is to ensure that we economically empower our young people.
Thompson says the government must act swiftly when it comes to putting policies in place to aggressively fight inflation.
Even the NGOs say that the money that they have available, they are buying less food as a result of inflation. The government has again done nothing to impact those NGOs, to assist those NGOs. They continue to be stubborn when it comes to the bread basket items and VAT on bread basket items. That is a very simple fix.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Missick.
Well, a Bahamas Power and Light employee who was attacked while carrying out his disconnection duties on Paradise Island is speaking out. Gabriel Gordon, who works in the Credit and Collections Department, was the man seen in a viral video, or picture that is, struggling with 58-year-old Stephen Akers of Palatial Estates, Paradise Island. Akers pleaded guilty to striking Gordon while he tried to access the meter box at his condominium on October 3rd. Today, Gordon explained how a routine day at work took a shocking turn.
I had a discussion with them, mainly with his wife, and she was basically asking me about the different things that I do with BPL, but in a way telling me what I needed to do as a disconnector, which of course was something that I should not be giving her, which is information from someone else since it was in her account. So after that discussion, she left, visibly upset.
And Gordon also sharing with us how he was able to fight off his attacker, and he shared the advice he gave to his fellow workers at BPL. Our Berthany McDermott has the full story coming up at 7:30. Well, it's time now for your first look at temperatures across the island, and meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Gandino. A nice evening setting up outdoors right now. Temperatures hanging out in the mid-80s, 85 degrees with just a few light sprinkles out there. We have a bit of a breeze, northeast winds at 13 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature near the 80-degree mark. Temperatures around the family of islands right now into the northwest Bahamas, 80 degrees in Freeport right now, as well as in Marshall, Abaco, Alistown, Bimini, you guys had 82. Great Habakey, 84, over Nicholstown, Andros, North Andros, 83, 85 here in the capital, and over in Governor's Harbour, temperatures a little cooler at 79. Central Bahamas, 83 in Kemps Bay. Then we pick up 86s in Georgetown, Exuma, as well as in Arthurstown, Cat Island. 87s in Cuban Towns in Salvador, and in Deadman's Key, Long Island. Southeast Bahamas, temperatures also in the low to mid 80s there. 85 in Duncantown, Ragged Island. 84 in Colonel Hill, Crooked Island. Over in Delectable Bay, 83. 83 in Abrams Bay as well. Then we pick up 84 in Turks and Caicos Islands. And deep south, Matthewtown, now where you guys currently at 83. On our satellite, weak frontal boundary, really you don't even notice it across the northwest Bahamas, now moving into the central Bahamas. Couple of small showers associated with that. That's why we had a couple of isolated showers out there in our current temperatures. But a frontal boundary to the southeast of the Bahamas is going to continue to push towards the southeast. This boundary standing across the northwest Bahamas eventually will dissipate later on and merge with what's left of the boundary towards the south, and high pressure will be building in back across our area. That's a quick look at our weather. Stick with us, your extended forecast, and a look at the tropics still to come.
Still to come on Our News, another inmate dead at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. We've got the latest from investigators. Plus, the education minister breaks her silence on the ongoing drama between union and administrators at Thelma Gibson Primary School. And home ownership made easy. Phase 1 of a Place to Call Home Rent to Own initiative is launched. That's coming up when Our News returns. A prisoner died at the Bahamas Department of Corrections overnight. Minister of National Security Minister Wayne Monroe confirming the death to Our News. In a crime report released this afternoon, police said a 43-year-old man who was on remand for causing damage was found unresponsive just after midnight. Police say no foul play is suspected and an autopsy will be performed to determine the exact cause of that death. This is not the first time an inmate has died at the facility. In June, another inmate was found dead in a cell after he was found unresponsive in his bed in the medium security dormitory. Prison officials saying no foul play was suspected in that case. A 21-year-old man has been charged with a recent murder. Dwayne Clark appearing before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt today in connection with the September 29th shooting death of Daquan Lundy. Lundy was found shot to death off Theodore Lane after 9 p.m. Clark didn't have to enter a plea to the murder charge. He was denied bail and is expected back in court on January 23, 2023 to receive a voluntary bill of indictment. Now to an update on the shooting of that off-duty officer who was shot during an attempted armed robbery on Tuesday. We are told the officer is still in hospital where his condition is now listed as stable. As he recovers, police say the manhunt continues for one of two men who attempted to rob a store on Wolf Road just east of Mount Royal Avenue. Police already have a teen in custody and are looking, as we said, for a second suspect. Well, despite ongoing industrial action by some teachers at Thelma Gibson Primary School, Minister of Education Glenys Hanna-Martin says the school is fully functional. Hanna-Martin breaking her silence on the issue today as the Bahamas Union of Teachers and its members call for the principal to be removed. The group claims that the principal was involved in an altercation with a teacher. On Tuesday, BUT President Belinda Wilson showed up outside the office of the Prime Minister requesting a meeting with him. The next day, the group taking their plight to the House of Assembly. Well, Hanna-Martin is insisting that measures are in place.
Teachers are in the classes. There is no class that is not supervised, and teaching is underway.
And government is one step closer to solving the housing crisis over on Abaco with the announcement of phase 1 of its Place to Call Home, Rent to Own initiative this week. Housing Minister JoBeth Colby-Davis telling Parliament yesterday the goal of the initiative is to provide a sustainable path to home ownership.
A reservation deposit is required to enroll in a place to call home. Successful applicants will be required to attend a home ownership education course through the Department of Housing and agree to financial coaching. In short order, Deputy Speaker, a public invitation will be extended for interested applicants to register at www.mothbahamas.com.
Colby-Davis says a number of models will be used, ranging from a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom model to a 3-bedroom, 2-bath model. She says phase 1 will be rolled out in Abaco and will initially include 5 housing units in Spring City.
We are starting a place to call home in Abaco because this administration understands the need for housing on the island is great. We also understand that the cost of rent on the island is significant. So this rent to own initiative will assist in lowering the cost of housing.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as police in Thailand investigate a mass shooting at a daycare. Plus, a theater in Grand Bahama raising money for much-needed repairs. Find out how you can help. And a well-known breast cancer survivor shares her story of survival as the global fight to end cancer continues. The details when Our News returns. We begin our worldview tonight with news of a school massacre. In a rare shooting, a 34-year-old police officer in Thailand massacred 36 people, 24 of whom were children, with a gun and knife at a child daycare center in the northeast, 335 miles from Bangkok. The attacker, who was suspended for disciplinary action back in January, also faced an illegal drug charge. This teacher narrowly escaping with her life.
He was inside the child center for a long time. He used a knife and cut all the kids' heads. He was carrying a small gun. I didn't know he was going to kill the kids. I thought he was going to come out, but he stayed inside a long time. He used the knife and stabbed all the kids. He also stabbed a pregnant teacher. It was only a few months until she was due to give birth. He stabbed my staff.
Meantime, U.S. President Joe Biden and Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis put aside their public differences just long enough to stand shoulder to shoulder as they met with victims of Hurricane Ian in Florida Wednesday. The President and First Lady Jill touring hurricane-ravaged Fort Myers, Florida a day ago, fresh from a trip to Puerto Rico, hit by Hurricane Fiona. Biden pledged federal support for Florida for a cleanup and rebuilding that cost American taxpayers billions and take years.
We're not leaving until this gets done. I promise you that. You know, when you walk around here, what's left of Fisherman's Wharf, and you don't have to have much of an imagination to understand that everything is historic, titanic, and unimaginable storm just ripped it to pieces. You got to start from scratch. Got to move again. And it's going to take a lot of time, not weeks or months. It's going to take years for everything to get squared away.
As of now, there have been over 2,500 rescues effectuated. There have been close to 100,000 structures in the most hard-hit areas that have been searched. We've deployed resources that were pre-staged and are now in the field for food, water, and other types of supplies. We had, prior to the storm, 42,000 linemen stationed throughout Florida ready to be on site to restore power as soon as the storm has passed. Today, we have over 97% of the state that has power.
More than 100 people died in that storm, and nearly 400,000 homes and businesses remain without power across the state. Well, the financial crisis in Lebanon blamed for an uptick in bank robberies. But here's the twist. People are taking their own money. After banks started enforcing tight withdrawal restrictions, more than a dozen banks have been raided this year. One woman caught on camera stormed the bank with a toy gun to take out $20,000 in family savings. In a recent action, a member of parliament and a retired diplomat staged a sit-in. With more than 80% of the population said to be living in poverty, hungry children are also reportedly being sent to work as Lebanon battles one of the worst economic crises in history. World health officials may have more reason to be concerned about a potential epidemic in Haiti. Dozens more cases of cholera have been diagnosed in that Caribbean nation. It is feared this potential health crisis will add to the chaos brought on by the existing political and economic crises. So far, 8 people are confirmed dead. 68 new cases were identified in early October. And over in Jamaica, the Jamaican police SWAT teams called in to give cover over the demolition of an illegal shanty town today. It happened on the outskirts of the Clifton in Portmore in St. Catharines, Jamaica. Under what was described as significant security presence, the homes were destroyed. Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness announcing the action in the House of Representatives this week. He claims a criminal gang captured the land and were fraudulently staying on the land. The lands are reportedly owned by the government. The now displaced residents telling the Jamaica Gleaner they are homeless, some claiming to have lived there upwards of 15 years. Some also claiming they paid large amounts for lots they now do not own.
We have confidence in the quality of the intelligence that we've been able to acquire. We have confidence in the information that we bring to bear on the process, and so we are confident in the fact that we are operating on good grounds.
Didn't start in the foundation. So your piece of, so where your land is we're going to be demolished. Yeah. Okay, all right. So what's he going to do?
I don't know.
All right, cool.
Still to come in our news, today in history, find out the interesting facts about the day that was October 6th. Plus, a breast cancer survivor explains how a cancer diagnosis does not have to mean a death sentence. And then at 7:30, hear a first-hand account from the BPL employee who was attacked at a Paradise Island property. Our news is back in a moment. Welcome back to Our News. Grand Bahamas' only performing arts center, the Freeport Players Guild Regency Theater, suffering a major blow following Hurricane Dorian. The devastating storm left the once thriving facility with lots of damage, and now the thespians that call the stage home are trying to rebuild. Director of Public Relations for the Freeport Players Guild, Desiree Joseph, says the board is hosting several fundraisers on the island to restore and rebuild the theater.
Here we have a body of members that are dedicated, that are committed to the arts, to keeping theater alive here in Grand Bahama, because, you know, we have been so blessed to have so many people, so many creatives among us that have called this theater home, and so we do not want to see it go down. We want to keep it around for a very, very long time.
The upcoming fundraiser, which is dubbed Operation Island Hunt, will be hosted at the Regency Theater this Saturday, October 9th. Lead strategist for the fundraiser, Alfred Anderson, and president of the Freeport Players Guild, Preston Knowles, explains how they plan, that is, on raising money.
We have married the arts, creativity, and just all things Grand Bahama into one. So the Operation Island Hunt, there's no place like home. We are encouraging any and everyone, whether you are theater knowledge or whether you're theater savvy or not. Like, we just want to put together something that's uniquely fun, and also where you can learn a lot more about Grand Bahamas.
Yeah, this hunt is particularly special because it's the return, and it is one of many events that we have scheduled leading up to our grand reopening. So we're asking the community to come out and, of course, be a part. If anyone has ever done Operation Island Hunt or any of the scavenger hunts under the brand, you can guarantee yourself that you'll have a good time. It's good camaraderie. And of course, this year, although we are still rebuilding, we still wanted to offer some sort of incentive. So there will be a cash prize this year for the winning team.
And if you want to help, be sure and visit ournews.bs to get another look at that story and all of today's top stories. That's at ournews.bs. Some interesting facts to note about this day in history. In 1991, world-renowned Oscar-winning actress Elizabeth Taylor married her 8th husband, builder Larry Fortensky. The photo on the screen was taken during a session with her husband-to-be at a news conference on September 11th that year in New York to announce a new premium perfume line, White Diamond. Taylor is seen saying enough with Fortensky by her side. Now, some of you might remember this one. In 2010, a popular photo sharing app was launched. You may be able to guess this one. Instagram was founded by Kevin Systrom and Mike Kruger and later acquired by American company Facebook Inc., now known as Meta Platform. Instagram now has 1.4 billion users. And then on this day in 2012, the world's first bicycle march for the legalization of marijuana happened in Colombia. In this photo, a man is smoking a marijuana cigarette during the bicycle march for the legalization of marijuana self-cultivation for medicinal and recreational purposes in Medellin. It is now illegal to smoke marijuana in Colombia. And here's your look at what to watch from now until the 9th of this month in the RTV Classics block this week. That's mornings between 10 a.m. and noon. Watch national trailblazer Sidney Poitier in classic movies, including To Sir with Love. Then watch local talent in the Shakespeare in Paradise plays. Tune in between noon and 3 for that. In RTV Primetime, that's between 6 and 11, watch Bahamian productions, including The Locker Room, On the Record, and other Sony blockbusters like In the Heat of the Night, The Green Hornet, and Hancock, among others. Be sure and check your programming guide for more on these programs right here on RTV. Well, breast cancer does not have to be a death sentence. That is the message from President of the Sister Sister Breast Cancer Support Group and two-time survivor Andrea Sweeting. Tonight, our Megan Shepard tells her story.
73-year-old Andrea Sweeting has faced her share of health challenges over the past 20 years, but her smile is one that will still fill you with warmth. Some 22 years ago, her journey began.
January 5th, 2000 is when I took off the right breast. I wanted to find out from him too then why he couldn't do the left at one time, and he said, well, insurances don't pay for well breasts. So that was it.
At the time, bilateral surgery was not available.
That only started when the U.S. Ambassador Siegel came to the Bahamas, and his wife, Miss Stephanie, came down with the disease. And she was the person who brought in the persons from Canada as well as the U.S. to do the genetic testing. We tested over 1,000 women at the Cancer Society, and 950 of those came back carrying the gene.
In 2020, Sweeting was finally able to have her left breast removed, beating cancer for the second time. Her message: there is life after the diagnosis. But with life, there comes challenges. And for Sweeting, there was definitely more to life.
In 2018, I lost my husband. And in 2019, 5th of September, I didn't even have a chance to go to that prep breakfast, is when I had the stroke. My whole left side was compromised. So I couldn't walk and I couldn't talk. And I'm so thankful now that's what I'm doing. I could walk and I could talk. Still working with the left hand. The fingers don't bend, but I have feelings in the palm as well as my tips.
And as to what keeps her going and full of life?
I wish I could say myself exactly what it is, but I'm so grateful to each of every one of you for your prayers, your concerns, your upliftment. It's sustaining me. That is the main point. And that is what we have to realize, that you can't do it all on your own. You rely on others as well.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
What a beautiful outlook. Thanks, Megan. Now, to watch that story again for all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs. That does it for us in News at 7.